So definitely one of the top reasons that we get contacted by people or people go into the vet is ear infections. It is easily in one of the top 3 things that brings people into the vet with their dogs. And we're going to talk today about the truth behind what ear infections actually are. It's not what you think. And that there's actually ways to treat it naturally so they don't come back over and over and over again.
So typically ear infections are thought to be caused by an overgrowth of yeast or bacteria inside the ears, in the ear canal. And so that's why, the vet will look in the ears with an otoscope, put a swab in there, get out a sample of the wax, they look under the microscope, they say, aha, yeast, or look, bacteria, or look, yeast and bacteria. And then the treatment is always focused on the ears, whether it's some sort of ointment that you have to do at home, a flush under anesthesia at the vet clinic. I've seen CAT scans be done for ear infections to see if they've penetrated to the inner ear. There's all sorts of stuff that can happen in there. And yet, ear infections show up in the ear. They're not typically true infections because the yeast and bacteria are normal skin inhabitants. It's not like some bacteria from the next county over flew in and landed in your dog's ear. So the yeast and bacteria that are in there are the normal ones that are supposed to be in there. And all of this is typically coming from a gut imbalance. So what's happening effectively in the vast majority of dogs is that basically this is the process of detoxification, where the body gathers up junk from inside the body and moves it out. There are only so many holes that things can come out of, and ears are very popular and very useful for dogs in that regard. One of the issues is that conventional medicine tends to focus on the ears, so treatment is very directed at the ears, although sometimes these dogs are also put on oral painkillers and oral antibiotics, but the ears are not the problem. The ears and the anal glands are typically the outposts of the intestinal immune system. So the ears are telling you that something is going awry in the intestinal microbiome. So you can treat the ear till you're blue in the face, but real success is going to come from addressing the gut imbalance.
So this really comes from a place of what we refer to as toxic load. And there's a lot of different ways that the toxic load is increased in your dog. And so just to give you an idea, toxins come from a variety of places, everything from what you're feeding them. If you're feeding an ultra-processed food, there's a tremendous amount of toxins in ultra-processed pet food. If you're using chemicals for prevention, if there's a lot of vaccinations happening, all of these things have toxins in them that your dog is not meant to have introduced to their system. It is not natural, and so their body is trying to figure out a way to deal with it and get it out to protect itself. You've got environmental things like pesticides and lawns being sprayed. There's a lot of different factors that could be contributing to toxins going into your dog. And so these are important things to think about when you're really looking at a chronic ear infection situation and you want those ear infections to stop. Then you need to think about, kind of what is the fire hose of toxins that keeps going into your dog that your dog is continually trying to push out through their ears. And so we want to talk about just kind of a foundational way to look at it, some things that you want to make sure that you're addressing internally while you're helping to manage and hopefully bring some relief and comfort externally.
Right, so there's like two sides of this. You have to correct the underlying gut imbalance. You have to stop poisoning your dog. And we also want to decrease the superficial inflammation, do what we can to make the dog more comfortable so that everybody can get some sleep at night. Typically, there's a lot of head shaking, ear scratching, rubbing their ears on the carpets, rubbing their ears on the furniture, bad smell, wax coming out. And so those are the kind of things that we want to soothe, but the real treatment has to be internal or you're typically not going to be successful in the long run. What happens if you treat the ear infection and, by using ointments in the ears and it goes away and doesn't come back, that is called suppression. That is the basic idea of putting a Band-Aid on something, putting masking tape over your check engine light and just saying, well, I'm not going to look at that, and preventing toxins from escaping from the body. So basically confining toxins to the inside of the body, which is not where we want them. We want them to be able to come out. We want the process to be easier, smoother, less uncomfortable for the dog and less uncomfortable for us.
So we're going to give you some things that you can do to help manage the ears while you're trying to bring healing from the inside out. And we really, really, really want to make sure that we're very clear. This should be minimal handling. This should not be washing and going after the ear and flushing it and putting things in the ear multiple times a day or even multiple times a week. It should be very, very minimal, only as much as necessary, and really trying to keep your hands off those ears, because the more we mess with the ears, the more aggravated and inflamed they become, and the more we disturb the microbiome that is trying desperately to balance itself. And so we don't want to overdo it with these things, but we certainly do want to help the dog feel more comfortable. It might help recovery come a little bit faster, especially if we can deal with some of that overabundance of bacteria in a natural way. And so the first thing that we're going to tell you is a very gentle, good way to kind of clean out the ear. So a lot of times when you have a dog with an ear infection, there's an excess of discharge. It can be very waxy, it can be very thick, it can be very dark, kind of smelly. We want to try and help relieve that for the dog and help them a little bit more comfortable. And so a really good solution that you could use is going to be a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide to 8 ounces of water. Mix it all in a glass. I like to put a couple of cotton balls in there and soak the cotton balls and then put it right inside the ear into the ear canal as comfortably as I can. I don't want to push too hard. Cover with the ear flap. You're going to really massage it in there until you can really hear that liquid getting down in the ear. And you're going to massage it for a good minute or two if they'll let you. And then what's going to happen is you're going to remove those cotton balls and they are going to want to shake their head, and you want them to do that because that is what is going to start getting a lot of that stuff loose and allow it to come out. And that is what we want to have happen. And then certainly you can take some clean cotton balls, maybe Q-tips if you can be very gentle in the creases of the outer part of the ear, and really just kind of clean some of that extra discharge out. If you need to use a little bit more of the solution as a cleaner, that's fine. But again, very, very minimal, very, very gentle as you're using that to really just kind of clean. And, the hydrogen peroxide and the apple cider vinegar are both, antibacterial, they're antiseptic, and so they are going to do some to help really mitigate that overabundance of bacteria, but we're not suppressing anything. We're just kind of helping to clean some of it out. Right.
And so often when I get emails from people or people tell me that they're cleaning the dog's ears at least twice a day and really wiping them a couple of times a day, they need to stop touching their dog's ears so much. Because even though a cotton ball feels soft to us and the Q-tip feels soft to us, it's not soft to that delicate mucous membrane. Another thing I have people use sometimes, if that kind of treatment is not soothing to the dog's ear for whatever reason, anybody can have their own reaction to whatever it might be, I'll have people use aloe vera gel. This is something that is sold at health food stores for people to drink. People drink it because it soothes mucous membranes, and you can pour it in your dog's ear. You'll probably need at least an ounce in each ear, unless you have a very tiny dog. Or a bigger dog might have larger ear canals that you need a couple ounces in each ear. So pour in enough so that it overflows a little bit. Then you know you have filled the ear canal and you've put in enough. Massage at the base of the ear for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Let the dog shake its head. And then you can use a cotton ball with some calendula cream on it or some coconut oil to kind of wipe up the excess and wipe those delicate ear folds. For some of these dogs, chiropractic and massage are very useful. For dogs with chronic ear infections, that's where massage is really going to be helpful to open the lymphatic drainage. For dogs where they're taken to the vet because they're shaking their heads and scratching their ears and stuff like that, but you look in the ear canals and there's nothing in there, there's no infection, then that tells me that there's a feeling, something feels itchy to them or prickly or tingly, those dogs need to go to the chiropractor to get their necks adjusted. So the nerves that go to the ears come out from between the cervical vertebra, make a U-turn, go up to the ears. There's a lot of nerves that pass through the inner ear. And that is what's going to kind of create that sensation. I think of it like if you ever get water in your ear while you're taking a shower, and like later in the day, you can still feel like it's kind of in there, even though it's not. It's that feeling that is making the dogs go after their ears a lot. So chiropractic and massage therapy, if you have a good animal massage therapist, are like my numbers. Massage therapy is probably my number one. Chiropractic is my number two for helping to deal with ear infections, because again, this is not a true infection. This is not something that they caught from the environment or something like that.
And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is something we talk about often here. Again, we want to be working from the inside out. We mentioned that earlier. We would encourage you to do a gut reset because most of the time, if there's been a lot of toxic load or there's an imbalance, the gut is going to take the hardest hit. And so we really want to make sure that we're rallying around that. And bringing back that thriving gut microbiome, or maybe instituting it if it's been, absent. And so we have a great gut reset protocol that you can accomplish with a handful of supplements. It's a great way to transition from kibble to raw. So if you are on have your dog on ultra processed food and you want to get them on a more fresh food, this is a beautiful process to get you. It's going to kind of do multiple things at one time for you. And so we will link our couple of guides that have that gut reset protocol down below. So if you would like to gain access to that, you can have that information.
And that's also useful for, because the first thing that people say when we say, okay, stop using the toxic flea and tick chemicals, first thing people say is, well, then what am I going to do? That's in a guide as well.
That's in a guide as well. So we have a lot of options. There's natural options for just about everything. And so if you've been doing something for your dog that is considered toxic, there is a natural version for that. And we're constantly trying to come out with more and more resources all the time to show you what your options are. And so we will definitely link those down below so that you can kind of take a look at those and say, okay, well, so I can't use flea and tick, or I don't want to use, the heartworm preventative. What can I do instead? We've got you covered. We're teaching people how to do that all the time. And so another thing that really is important, and we really mention this with a lot of different things, especially if you have a dog with a chronic issue, you are going to have patience. Most of the time, these issues don't happen overnight. They've built up over time. You've got a lot of things going on, a lot of baggage going on in the background. It is going to take a little while to allow your dog, give them the resources and give them what they need so that they can actually go through the process to heal from the inside out. Healing is not a microwave solution. It's not going to happen overnight. It's never been a process that should happen overnight.
Right.
And so we just encourage you to, if you want that, getting to the root cause, more permanent solutions so that you don't have these chronic issues, it is going to take some time. Please have patience. Don't expect results in a week. Don't expect results sometimes in 3 or 4 weeks. Sometimes this is going to take time, but it's worth it in the long run because you're not going to be on this hamster wheel and your dog's not going to be suffering over and over and over again.
And I will say there's something else that I use if the dog's ears are really inflamed or if the dog is really, really bothered. I use Boswellia as my natural anti-inflammatory. So if you're sort of thinking like, but he's in a lot of pain or his ear is bright red and hot to the touch, then give him some Boswellia. It's very safe for dogs. It's very easy to find because people take it all the time for arthritis. So any health food store will have it. I'm sure you can pretty much find it anywhere that sells vitamins. Usually the way that you would dose something like that for dogs, so 40 milligrams per kilogram is going to be like a really high therapeutic dose for dogs. Often you don't need that much, but I would not hesitate to give a dog, let's say, twice whatever the human recommendation is. You do have to use a fairly high dose of Boswellia for dogs, but it's very safe for them, and it's very safe for long-term use. So the keys are to pay attention to your dog's microbiome, really stop the chemicals coming in as much as possible, but you really have to look at lawn chemical use, look at chemicals in the home, chemicals outside the home, even things like heartworm preventive and flea and tick stuff. Most people don't even think of those as chemicals, but boy, are they toxic. Like that's a serious cause that is driving these ear infections in your dog. So the more natural alternatives you can replace those with, the better.